this is Linda Cohn from ESPN, and you're listening to the ML Sports Platter.
ML Sports Platter, a part of the Brawl Network. Hit me on Twitter at Mike L Sports and at Network Brawl on Twitter. And, of course, Mike L Sports 1979 on Instagram. We are presented by Liverpool Physical Therapy, Barks and Rec Doggy Daycare, and our good friends at Stanley Law Offices. Together, they'll work to get you the maximum award. Visit them online at StanleyLawOffices.com. That's StanleyLawOffices.com. It is a delight to bring on to the podcast show a guy who is covering the Cleveland Browns and the AFC North for Browns Life. You can get him on online at rod-bloom.medium.com. He is the host of the Browns Blitz. And make sure you download and subscribe to that podcast all over the major platforms as well. It's a weekly Browns podcast, and he crushes it and knows the inside and outside of the team. We're going to talk some Baker. We're going to talk future, the year that they just had. We're going to go around the NFL a little bit, the draft coming up as well with Rod Bluhm on Twitter at CLE-RodB. That's Rod Bluhm on Twitter at CLE-RodB. Rod, welcome in, bud.
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no doubt about it. How would you grade, assess the 2020 season for the Cleveland Browns?
You know what? I have to give it an A. It was incredible. You know, I think with a new head coach, some talented players, but with everything we've been through in Cleveland and all the losing, we've had some expectations in recent years, but seeing the Browns make the playoffs, win double-digit games, and actually win a playoff game and go into the second tier, second level of the playoffs, second round, it was incredible. Sure, they had a shot in that Chiefs game.
Oh, yeah.
People say, they could have done things differently. Their defense lost that game, everything. Okay, whatever. You know what, man? That game was great experience for them. We got a coach who won, Coach of the Year. Man, it was a great season for the Browns, a great building block.
Where do you sit now on Baker Mayfield? I mean, is he officially the guy? We've seen, Stefanski come in, an offense that's much more, I think, conducive to Baker and his style, putting him in better spots. He's got a power running game. He's got weapons. The O-line's gotten better here week to week for the full duration of a season where we've seen Baker really improve. And I think Baker, to his credit, as you know, Rod, quarterback in the NFL, I mean, it's not as simple as just the quarterback doing everything under his power. There's so many other things around him that can hinder the development, hinder the production year to year in terms of getting to a good, great, elite level. Baker has done really, really solid things on his end to improve as well. Where are you with Baker Mayfield moving forward? Is he the guy? Do you pay him the big money? What do you do with Baker?
Baker is the guy. Baker's really been the guy for me for quite a while. I've had a lot of confidence in him. Just, I think really just seeing what I saw out of him in his rookie season, I knew he had the ability. But I think you guys have seen some of the same stuff out of Josh Allen. It takes time for a guy to develop, and then in Cleveland when you have 4 or 5 different offensive coordinators and quarterback coaches and head coaches,
it's impossible.
What do you expect?
Right. Yeah.
Things finally started to come together for him, and people were still questioning him beginning of last season, and then probably over the last 6 or 8 games, he was one of the. I don't know exactly where he ranked, but he was a top 10 QB over the last, I think, 6 or 8 games. So he may not always be top 10, but yeah. Being top 10 in the NFL, it's not easy.
There's no question. There's no doubt about that. What does the future look like for Odell Beckham Jr., Rod?
He's rehabbing real hard. He looks good. I don't know. I don't know if people in Buffalo saw him running on the treadmill, but it looks like he can run to me. We'll see if he can cut. So I don't know what the immediate future is for him this season, because that ACL injury is a tough injury to come back from right away. But, I mean, he's kind of on target to maybe play some this season. As far as the future, I know what you're really getting at is he going to be in Cleveland?
Right.
I think with the injury, I think it's hard to part ways with him this season. Okay. But the Browns, as you know, have a lot of money tied up in Odell and Jarvis. So I think at some point the Browns probably will part ways with one of those guys. And I think that Jarvis is a lot more important to the team right now. But we'll see. You don't know how the front office sees things, but you really can't afford to pay two wide receivers when you've got extensions coming up for guys like Baker, Denzel Ward, and then you got the issue of Nick Chubb too, and what you're going to do with him. So I think OBJ is going to be here this season. I think there will be a big question as to, I'm sure they hope he's going to play some this season, show he's healthy, and I would think the Browns would probably be looking to move him next, after the season.
Rod Bluhm, our guest on the ML Sports Platter. He is the host of the Browns Blitz. Make sure you download and subscribe to that podcast where podcasts are found on your smartphone device. Browns Life Writer, and, of course, at CLE Rod B on Twitter. Make sure you go give him a follow. How about the free agency scene so far for Cleveland? Likes, dislikes, anything in between?
I love what Andrew Berry's done. Browns have gotten tremendous grades, or Andrew Berry's gotten tremendous grades for his moves. The John Johnson signing is lauded as probably the top signing. In free agency, it's not just about which guys you sign; it's about the contracts too. And the Browns have kind of stuck to their guns and not overpaid guys. So you got John Johnson and Troy Hill. They brought both of these guys in on pretty decent deals. They're paying John Johnson a lot of money, but man, it's really a position in need. The Browns secondary was really. Outside of Denzel Ward was really the weakness of the team last year. Partly due to injuries and that, but they really needed to upgrade there, and they've done that with these two guys. Other than that, some of these signings we'll see. They're kind of low risk signings. Tack McKinley's 1-year deal, Malik Jackson 1-year deal, Anthony Walker 1-year deal. The same for bringing Rashard Higgins back, Malcolm Smith, Cody Parkey. I think they're going to bring in somebody to compete with him. He doesn't have much guaranteed money on his contract, and they're also bringing JoJo Natson back coming off an injury. So just very, very smart deals. They really have not increased their payroll much at all, so they've still got room to do some other things. They've still got some players they could probably restructure if they wanted to sign somebody else. And they've kind of made it to where they can go into the draft almost looking at taking the best player that's there versus having a specific need. They're pretty close to that.
So one thing that I think Cleveland has going for it is the core players, and a lot of times consistent contenders, sustainability in the NFL is so difficult to get to that level. Winning is hard, keeping up there is harder, right? And so, but if you look back at teams and success and dynasties and all the other sort of thing, and I don't know what this group is going to do. I don't know if they're going to all go to the Hall of Fame. Some will, none will. If this team will win a Super Bowl, who knows? But the core seems to be built, right? You've got Baker Mayfield at quarterback, 25 years old. Nick Chubb at running back, 25 years old. Kareem Hunt, running back, 25 years old. They're a two-headed monster. I like Chubb a little bit better. I think he's a little bit more durable. And I loved him in college at Georgia. I really did. And I don't know what the hell they do at Georgia, but my God, the running backs there. The wide receiver scene looks pretty good. Jarvis Landry is still only 28 if they want to keep him around for a while. They've got some young guys in terms of building the depth there. They have a major defensive pass rusher in Myles Garrett. I mean, a core could be generational guy, 25 years old. You mentioned Denzel Ward, another one, a corner, 23 years old. How promising do Browns fans feel because they have that group and then build around that, right? Like, I kind of look at the Bills the same way. You know, Allen, Diggs, you've got Deion Dawkins on the left side, Trey White, Matt Milano, you know, a core of guys. How important is it to the Brown fan base, to you covering this team, that they have that group of 4 or 5 guys who can really be the nuts and bolts here of this team?
Well, it's interesting because Browns fans, you know, a lot of Browns fans weren't around last time the Browns were good, you know, back in the 1980s. So it's a whole new generation. They're not used to having guys stick around. Most of the better Browns players over the past, 20 plus years since the Browns have been back, the reincarnation of the Browns players got good. They pretty much left. They haven't taken a lot of guys into their second contract. It's just been continuous rebuilds over and over and over. So we've pretty much been rooting for the uniform for about 20 years. So it's different to see a core come together, and I think it's something the fans are starting to come to terms with, and trying to understand that you have certain guys who are going to stick around, and you're going to have that 20-30% of the roster that's going to turn over every season, and that's how you build a winning team. So I think a lot of the younger fans are going to catch on to this. There's still some people that might be kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop, the old Cleveland fans. But, I like where things are, and I think you're exactly right. We have the right front office in to be able to figure out how to keep those core guys. They've done a great job. I think they extended Myles at the right time. I think they'll do the same thing with Denzel Ward. I just have a feeling that they'll figure out a way to keep Nick Chubb as well. There's a big debate about can you win with a running back, or with signing a big running back or not. A lot of people think you can't, but if anybody can figure it out, I think it's Andrew Berry.
A couple more quick ones on the Browns side of things in the AFC North and NFL talk here with Rod Bluhm. Get him on Twitter at CLERodB. And, of course, the host of the Browns Blitz on major podcast platforms as well. What's your state of the union on this division, man? I mean, you talk about the Steelers are going to run it back with Big Ben, right? They bring back Juju. I do not agree with either of those moves, by the way. But that helps Cleveland, I think. You've got Baltimore right there contending. The Bengals hoping to get Burrow back. They have a good nucleus there. I tell you what, if the Steelers can kind of figure out a little bit here post Big Ben and all the rest, the AFC North seems like it never lets up, Rod.
You're right. The Ravens, as long as Lamar stays healthy and keeps playing the way he's been playing, they're always going to be dangerous. They just, they have an uncanny way of keeping that roster very, very strong. So Baltimore's always going to be right there. Pittsburgh, in Cleveland, we have a way of underestimating Pittsburgh kind of every season, thinking, well, they lost these 3 guys and 4 guys, and they only added this guy, and they might not be that good, but somehow or other Pittsburgh always figures out a way to be right there. So I'm not going to make the mistake this season, just like I didn't make it last season, of thinking that Pittsburgh is not going to be a factor. So, especially with Big Ben still playing, he didn't look great at the end of last season, but let's see how he does this year. Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh loses Ben, then they're going to have the issue of finding a quarterback, but we'll see what happens. As far as the Bengals go, don't really know how Joe Burrow's doing on his recovery. That was a major injury. I don't know if he'll be back beginning of the season, partway through, or whatnot. But man, they really have something in Joe Burrow. I think he's really going to be. Yeah, he's really going to be something. So if they can build properly around him, the Bengals really have a shot to be very competitive in the division as well.
Any other kind of NFL? I'll have you kind of plug your stuff to close after this, and give my listeners kind of an idea of anywhere else that they can find you, and certainly how you started with it, and going back as a football fan for years. But NFL offseason, free agency, draft, getting the cap was down $15 million, because of Corona. Just give me some takeaways here on the offseason. Got new faces in new places. We got Carson Wentz in Indy. We got quarterbacks on the move. Goff and Stafford traded for one another. The draft is going to be wild. Probably 4 of the first 6 picks maybe are quarterbacks again. No surprise there. How about just the offseason, kind of bundling those things together? What what are your eyes on? What have they been on?
Man, everybody better have their scorecard ready to try to figure out where everybody's playing next season. It's been kind of hard to keep up with all the moves. It really has. I think, Stafford with the Rams is really going to be interesting. I always appreciated his work. So we'll see with that offense around him and the Rams defense. I think they have a shot to really make some noise. Out in LA. The Rams. As far as the draft, this draft is loaded at so many positions, and I know the Bills picked down a ways. With the Browns picking at 26, it's kind of curious. I'm kind of curious as to how things are going to break and where the runs are going to be. Seeing a lot of different scenarios, a lot of different guys going to the Browns at 26. The quarterbacks are really interesting. People really don't even agree on who the second quarterback off the board is going to be. Not real sure how all that's going to break down. Fortunately, we've got like another month to work on this draft and kind of get our ideas together. I've seen 4 or 5 different guys going to the Browns at 26 in mocks. Any of them are possible, and as far as my work, I pretty much work on the podcast weekly. So I like to have people on from Twitter primarily, but I have some other bigger name people on occasionally. But I like to give fans a chance to come on and talk and just kind of break stuff down. We're going through draft and free agency right now.
Yeah.
I write occasionally and put tweets out with links, but I started writing for some websites and moved up to VP and was head of writing and so forth. But I've kind of drifted away from that a little bit and just kind of doing my own thing right now.
So, how long do you go? We'll just wrap on this. How long have you been? Did you start as a Browns fan? Way back when, and we all start as fans at some point. Are you a longtime Browns fan, NFL fan? Is that kind of how the? Okay.
Yeah, I started following the Browns in I would say 1979.
Okay, that's the year I was born.
Yeah. So I'm older than you, Mike.
Yeah, by a little bit, not as much as you think. I'm not a spring chicken anymore either, here, pal. But man, it's just been a rough. I mean, the Browns, I've always had a soft spot for Cleveland, man. I really have. I mean, being a Bills and Sabres guy, I don't even need to that's all I need to say. But the Browns and the woes in 1948 with the Indians, and I mean, LeBron got the title, of course, and that's nice, but man, all the other heartbreak and then the team moving and back. And I've always had a little bit of a soft spot for Cleveland sports. I've gone to so many games in that market as well, and I got to tell you, it's wild because you were mentioning the Browns and the Chiefs game, and my wife has become just a psycho Bills fan as well, and she was like, man, I'd love for the Bills to host against Cleveland, but man, I don't want to lose to Landry, from the history that he had with with Aaron Williams and all that, and losing to Cleveland.
Yeah.
Like, do we want to lose to Cleveland? And I'm thinking, you're hosting the playoff game. I'd rather host against Cleveland. Than I could see her point, and you want to go down swinging maybe to the defending champions. But then I still had that little soft spot for Cleveland, man, because it's the heartbreak. The heartbreak is real, man. It's real.
And that's kind of where I was, because I think we're kind of kindred spirits, because I interact with quite a few Bills fans, and I think Browns and Bills fans, we're kind of in the same boat. We're pretty close in proximity, and we've been through kind of similar things. But last fall, I was rooting for the Bills in their playoff games, and somebody said, "Well, if the Bills win, I think that put the Browns up against the Chiefs." And I'm like, well, you know what? Hey, so be it.
Yeah.
We're probably going to have to beat the Chiefs sooner or later anyways, right?
Yeah, right. Everybody is going to have to, yeah.
Like, I gotta root for the Bills. I can't, I'm not going to root against them. So.
Well, he hosts the Browns Blitz all over the major platforms. Download and subscribe to that podcast on Twitter at CleRodB. That's at CLE Rod Bluhm here on the ML Sports Platter, talking some Browns, AFC North, and NFL in general. Rod, this was fantastic. Thanks for a few minutes. And baseball season's coming up, and it's sad days in Cleveland. I just talked about all that heartbreak, man. Francisco Lindor, the Indians crying poverty and shipping him to the Mets. I was pissed when I saw that happen. He's one of my favorite players in the game. I'm a big Yankee guy, but I love Lindor. I love the game. And that was sad, but hopefully Cleveland can hang in there, and thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely, yeah. That was tough to see. We knew it was coming for like three years too.
Folks, it is March and college basketball. It's heating up. Thanks to our partnership with DraftKings, you can take your best shot at picking a matchup with 100-1 odds. Now through tip-off of the CBB national title game on April 5th of 2021. That's right, college basketball's national tilt. DraftKings will be offering 100-1 odds on any matchup from the Sweet 16 through tip-off of the national championship. Just go to DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com. Head over to the Sportsbook promos page, click Boost the Event, and you'll be on your way. Again, it's simple. 100-1 odds. Eligibility restrictions apply. Offer ends on April 5th of 2021 at tip-off of the national championship game. DraftKings, get there, play, compete against your friends. It's a blast, and get 100-1 odds on any matchup from the Sweet 16 through tip-off of the national championship. I get into all the time with people who love the NBA or they love the MMA, whatever, NASCAR, and I love the NHL, right? I don't pay attention to the MMA. I just don't like it. I think it's a bloodbath. I think it's ridiculous. We all have our own opinions. I don't like the way people train. I don't like the disgusting nature in which they do it, the fasting and the puking and all this other, making weights, all that stuff. Just not into it. I'm not into the sport. I'm not into the cannibalizing of it. I'm not into the chance that somebody could die in the ring. I'm not into. I'm just the blood and the garbage and I'm just not into it. I'm just not. And as far as the NASCAR goes, I respect it. I respect all of the sports I don't like or follow or talk about much on my platforms, but NASCAR and the speeds and the control and there is athleticism involved. Trust me when I tell you that. I'm not into it. I'm just not into watching cars go in circles for hours. I respect it, not into it. I go back and forth a lot with people who love the NBA and don't watch the NHL, and I'm completely the opposite. I mean, I had the Devils Flyers game on for a period and a half last night as I record this, and was reading the Shoe Dog book out by Phil Knight, which, by the way, is just absolutely incredible. The story of founding Nike and his journey in Oregon and going to the Far East with an idea and it's spectacular. Hanging out with a buddy before that, and I believe Hawaii. You got to go pick it up and read it. It's so good. I'm like 40, 50 pages in, and I can't put it down. But I put the NHL on basically every night at some point. That'll change. It has changed recently with college basketball and the tournament being back. College hoops nights with the tournament, I don't flip over to the hockey at all. Kind of trying to focus in on things a little bit better lately instead of having the ADHD problem with the controller. I think where people miss the hockey part is because they don't really understand the game. I understand the NBA, I just don't like it. But the NBA, they've just, a few years back, I started to slowly get back into it. I was watching some regular season and a bunch of playoffs. I do like the stars. I like Giannis. I like LeBron. I like Steph Curry. I like Kawhi. I like these guys. But the NBA, like the league in general, has just become so filled with drama queens and, the load management stuff and Kyrie Irving just deciding not to go to a road trip. You've got the players and the coaches fighting with one another. You've got just crazy stuff going on. And I'm just not into it. I'm not into the drama. I'm not into, by the way, the style, a lot of the style of play as well. I'm just not into guys taking plays off. I mean, hell, I just mentioned load management. I mean, there's multiple games and practices and all these other things. I understand you need to conserve your body and all that, but, I mean, did we see Magic and Bird? And I hate to be the whole back in my day guy, but honestly, I mean, without the conditioning, I feel like with more training, more nutrition, more conditioning, more saunas, more state-of-the-art facilities, more everything to help your body, I feel like guys play less with all that stuff. I mean, back in the day, Michael Jordan might drink a six-pack of Miller Lite after one game and come back 2 nights later and score 35, right? I don't understand why these guys need to do it to this level. Once in a blue, okay, cool. You know what? You got the division wrapped up in late March, and you're the Lakers. You want to take a game off against a last place team. If you're LeBron, okay, cool. But people still come out and pay, again, under normal circumstances, pay to come out and see you, hoping that you're going to play, and then you just don't play. You at least come out and sign some autographs. I mean, do something like that, right? Like, Magic and Michael and Larry and Karl Malone and Reggie Miller and Stockton and Drexler and Wilkins and all those guys from the 90s, Sean Kemp, Hakeem Olajuwon, Patrick Ewing, all those, Barkley, all those players. I just don't remember ever those guys just being like, nah, I'm just going to skip a road trip. Like, ever. Isaiah Thomas, ever. The coaches back then with the Phil Jacksons and the Chuck Dailies, and I just don't ever Rudy Tomjanovich. I just don't remember Jerry Sloan, like at any particular point. Guys just mailing it in completely. And I feel like they're doing that all the time in today's day and age. Like Kevin Durant just figures out that he can just delay things when he wants to, right? These players, they all dictate the league as well, right? I mean, they tell the commissioner what to do. I don't even know why Adam Silver even has a job. This isn't David Stern's NBA. And Adam Silver came in. I respect him. I like him. I think he's really smart. But his power has been dwindling for a while now. When he first came in, he made a bunch of decisions. He grabbed the bull by the horns with the coronavirus. He's done some other things that have allowed the NBA to kind of be the leader for others to follow. But other than that, like, the guy really doesn't have as much control in the league, I don't think, as Gary Bettman does for the NHL. Rob Manfred is trying to ruin baseball, so we'll just leave him in the dumpster. But Roger Goodell with the NFL, I mean, I feel like as a commissioner, he just doesn't have a lot of say, a lot of power. And these players, I mean, they can just develop a super team at any moment's notice. I mean, Kevin Durant couldn't beat him, so he joined him, goes and wins a title with the Warriors, and then he just divorces the Warriors, and now he's in Brooklyn. In trying to find out if he can do it again with another super team, or quote unquote that of a super team with Kyrie Irving. A guy who just says, screw it, I'm not going on a road trip, or I'm not going to practice, or I'm not going to listen to the coach, or, I mean, Did that happen here and there in the old days? Yeah. I mean, as far as not listening to a coach or butting heads, but not to this degree. I mean, Phil Jackson, for crying out loud, brought in Dennis Rodman. After talking to Pippen, after talking to Jordan, after talking to all the other players on the Bulls, can he help us win titles? Yes, he can. They brought him in and dealt with all the drama, all the Carmen Electra stuff, all the trips to Vegas, all the drinking, all the gambling, all the tattoos and the earrings and the covers of magazines and the wedding and dressing up as a bride and all that stuff. They won. They gave the player freedom. They butted heads a little bit, of course. But like when it was ready to be game time, Rodman got dragged out of that Vegas hotel by Jordan. Like Rodman was ready to play. Rodman would go out and get 15, 20 rebounds. Rodman changing the color of his hair all the time. He was a rock star. He was a power guy. But Dennis Rodman by no means ever ran the Chicago Bulls. Reinsdorf and Krause and Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan. There were plenty of figures who ran the Bulls ahead of him. LeBron runs the Lakers. LeBron and a couple other players run the NBA these days. And the product, I just don't think is that good. I mean, I've tried to flip over. I'm like, I'm really going to get into this. If Steph Curry's on, let's say it's Warriors-Bucks or it's Warriors-Lakers or something, and I'm, okay, here we go. Like, let's try to get into it. Couple minutes, let's go. And then after 2 minutes, I'm like, man, I just can't do this. Like, I watched Curry hit a bomb three, and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of into it. Like, it's really great. And then he goes out of the game, and then they play half-ass defense. You can't hand check. You can't do a lot of different things. And guys take plays off, and I'm just sitting here going, yeah, I'm good. Like, I don't need this, I just don't need it. So the game is just not. I'm just not into the game. I'm not into the game, the style. I'm not into the way the players are. On and off the court. The NBA's complete hypocrisy with China is a whole other story, obviously. I mean, they make no stink about, basically a communist country. They've taken all the rights away from players, or from citizens. But LeBron says nothing about it. Silver says nothing about it. The NBA says nothing about it because they need to sell Space Jam. And they need to sell their product to, people to get subscriptions, NBA TV and online and streaming and all that sort of thing, right? They need to keep growing the game in the Far East. Well, meanwhile, here we're talking about some of the inconsistent racism and the Black Lives Matter movement, which, again, Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. Some of the different things, like the defense of Jacob Blake, was absolutely asinine. We know what Jacob Blake was and is in that particular moment. I mean, a guy had multiple weapons. He had a restraining order. He shouldn't have been in front of the house. He resisted cops multiple times. He has multiple arrest warrants out for him. Why are NBA players defending Jacob Blake? Like, I don't understand why you're defending him and then, nowhere are you coming down on China, but then you're defending Jacob Blake, a guy who created, this entire scene and the shooting and all the rest of it. Like, I just don't understand it. I mean, he was armed with a knife. He had probably another one in the drawer, opening it if he was going to go and open it up. He failed to abide by the officers. He had 3 sons in the back seat. I mean, if Black Lives really mattered, why are his 3 black sons in the back seat? And he has weapons and he's in front of a house he shouldn't be in front of. But of course, everybody takes their little snippets of video. They post it all over the place. The mainstream media goes nuts. And cops get a bad label because this guy, this guy provoked and invoked all sorts of things, I mean, he was invoked in protests in other cities as a part of the BLM movement. But the NBA goes nuts defending Jacob Blake basically a criminal, and then you have a situation going on where China is literally stripping people's rights, murdering people, doing horrendous things. The NBA is silent on that issue. Again, we live in, between coronavirus, BLM, all the other things that are going on, we stand for some reason, our society stands for hypocrisy and inconsistency. It's absurd. It's like the coronavirus. Like Andrew Cuomo of New York State, right? Like, oh, let's just start opening up restaurants at 10 o'clock on Valentine's Day, or keeping them open until 10. Well, what's the difference between Valentine's Day and 2 weeks ago? Well, the numbers weren't different with Corona in New York State, right? People come at the state of Florida, oh my God, Miami Beach is out of control. Ron DeSantis is a terrible governor. Everything's open. I can't believe that. Well, A, most of the people are spending time, outside where it's completely safe. And B, their numbers are better than New York State since the start of this thing. And they've been completely open. They have 15,000 people in Disney World. They really do. Every single day. And no one's getting corona. But that's not reported. It's just reported that people are all out on a beach and voila, right? That's part of our inconsistent world. Same goes for the NBA. Same goes for players just decide when to defend a movement, right? LeBron is the spokesperson. Well, no thanks. No thanks. I don't want LeBron as the spokesperson. I'll take Steph Curry, a little bit better, sure. Or how about the commissioner? I get it. LeBron's the face of the league still. Most popular player, probably. Most hated player. He's got kind of a polarizing image and all the rest. Okay. But, he doesn't make any sense. The inconsistency, the hypocrisy in the NBA. That's another thing I don't like. The load management I don't like. Skipping practices and games and deciding not to go on road trips and players creating dynasties themselves. The league, the product, you can't hand check, you can't touch anybody. Guys take plays off. Where's the defense? I mean, there's 3 quick passes and there's no one around sometimes with 3-point shots open. I just don't, the style, the product, everything in between, and ratings. I mean, I know NBA people will just kind of stop watching because they also got too political the last several months. So that's why I don't watch the NBA. Period. End of discussion. Folks, let me tell you about our friends from Manscaped. I mean, you want to talk about a terrific product. Well, this tournament season, take care of your hair and holes with the best tools for the job. We're talking about our sponsors from Manscaped, the global leaders in male grooming from head to toe. When the clock winds down in March, be clutch, avoid the upset with the Manscaped Performance Package to keep all your hairs and holes tamed. Start taking care of your man parts today. 20% off and free shipping. Unbelievable. All you have to do is go to manscaped.com and use the code BRAWL for our exclusive offer. 20% off and free shipping by going to manscaped.com. Use code BRAWL for our exclusive offer. Make sure you do it. Your bracket isn't supposed to be perfect, but with the Manscaped Performance Package, you can be confident that your nose, ear, and ball pubes are. Manscaped. Get there. Manscaped.com. ML Sports Platter all over the major platforms like Spotify, Deezer, Stitcher, you name it, CastBox, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. Go ahead and download, subscribe, leave feedback, and a 5-star review. Really appreciate everybody listening to the program. A little talk with Rod Bluhm, a little Cleveland Browns, AFC North, some off-season stuff, and got into telling you why I cannot stand the NBA. At me. Hit me with why you love the NBA. Maybe I'll talk about it on a future podcast. The ML Sports Platter, brought to you by Bryant and Stratton College and Stanley Law Offices. Hit me on Twitter at Mike L. Sports, at Network Brawl on Twitter as well. This podcast and the Bills Brawl, which I host 1 or 2 episodes a week as well, all a part of the Brawl Network, and having so much fun doing it, getting great guests on. And you can also find my ML Sports Takes and 9 Minute with Mike Lindsley videos all over YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, IGTV. Make sure you subscribe and follow to all those platforms as well. As I always tell you, enjoy the games.